Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the New York City Council vote on the Committee on Parks and Recreations. At this time, please silence all electronics and do not approach the dais. Chair Krishnan, you may begin.
Thank you so much, Sergeant. Good morning, everyone. I'm Shaker Krishnan, Chair of the Committee on Parks and Recreation. Today, the committee will vote on a pre-considered bill that would ceremonially co-name 128 thoroughfares and public places throughout the city. Co-naming bills are the result of the Council's periodic process where we seek to honor individuals and organizations that have made lasting contributions to our city. Some of these include co-names for active community members, heroic New Yorkers who sacrificed their lives for others, people who committed their lives to public service, or those who greatly enriched the city's cultural landscape. Of the many honorees proposed by this piece of legislation, I'd like to call attention to a few of the co-namings that I'm proud to have sponsored. My first nomination is to co-name an area in my district as Patty G's Way, after Patrick Patty Gilmartin. Patty started a career in the bar business in the early 1970s, attended Bishop Du Bois, an all-boys Catholic high school in Harlem, before deciding to put college on hold to serve in the Vietnam War, where he was wounded and received a Purple Heart. He established Patty G's and created a welcoming and inclusive environment that became a community hub for 40 years. His dedication extended beyond his business with providing free home-cooked meals during holidays for those in need. After his death, he was honored with the United States Army Honor Guard funeral, and his bar continues to operate under the care of his children, ensuring the legacy of this neighborhood institution in Elmhurst, and I was very proud to visit it just a couple years ago. My other nomination is for Ed Cedarbaum and Howard Cruz Corner. Ed Cedarbaum is regarded as the grandfather of the Queens LGBTQ movement. His activism began in the late 1980s after the tragic hate crime murder of Julio Rivera in 1990 and from the PS 69 schoolyard in Jackson Heights, which was the catalyst for the Queens Pride Parade that many of us march in today. This galvanized Ed's commitment to LGBTQ rights. He founded Queens Gay and Lesbians United, QGLU, in 1991, helping organize the first candidates forum where local politicians were challenged on their stances regarding LGBTQ issues. He also played an essential role in organizing protests against anti-gay curricula in Queens' school, championed the passage of the New York State Hate Crimes Act in 2000, and worked with the Anti-Violence Project to train police officers on LGBTQ issues. Howard Cruz was an acclaimed gay cartoonist whose strip Wendell was featured on The Advocate in the 1980s. He founded the Gay Comics anthology series to run work by out creators. He published a graphic novel, Stuck Rubber Baby, in 1995, which told the story of a gay man coming of age in the South during the civil rights era of the 1960s and reflected the author's life. The novel won several awards and was translated into a variety of languages. Next is Hank Krumholtz Corner. Henry Hank Krumholtz, who I had the pleasure and honor of knowing for many years, was a vital figure for the LGBTQ rights movement in Queens, who played a foundational role in the success and growth of the Queens LGBTQ Pride Parade, which began in Jackson Heights in 1993. Hank helped to build the event into one of the borough's most significant celebrations of diversity and equality. His professional background with the U.S. Postal Service also proved invaluable to LGBTQ Pride, as his work enabled the parade's organizing committee to efficiently send thousands of physical mailers at a time before digital communication, reaching supporters and elected officials across the city. He also helped establish the first ever Queens Lesbian and Gay USPS postal cancellation in 1995, marking a historic moment of visibility. Lastly, he helped secure funding for the Queens Lesbian and Gay Pride Committee by finding advertisers for the Winter Pride Journal. Through his dedication, practical support, and unrelenting commitment, Hank Krumholtz helped transform Queens into a more inclusive and visible home for LGBTQ+ residents. I've had the honor of knowing Hank for many years and working with him and seeing his work for the LGBTQ community in Queens during that time. But perhaps even more poignantly, I know that Ed Cedarbaum, Howard Cruz, Hank Krumholtz were all close friends of former council member and my predecessor, Danny Drum, who was one of the first openly gay council members in New York City government. And I know that he would certainly say, were he in chambers today, and credit a lot of his work and his activism, both as a public school teacher and as a council member, to the work of Ed Cedarbaum, Hank Krumholtz, and Howard Cruz. Finally, Osvaldo Gomez, Miss Columbia Way, will recognize Osvaldo Gomez, Miss Columbia, who was a beloved Queens cultural icon known for her vibrant presence and commitment to living life authentically. A native of Medellin, Colombia, Gomez worked as a lawyer before fleeing to New York in the 1970s, escaping political violence and anti-LGBTQ+ persecution. After being diagnosed with HIV/AIDS in the 1980s and given only months to live, she defied expectations and lived more than 20 years longer, embracing colorful and public persona that brought joy to countless New Yorkers. Often seen with her parrot Rosita and poodle Cariño, she was a fixture at local parades and festivals and became a staple of Queens pride and a cherished figure in neighborhoods like Elmhurst, Jackson Heights, and the Rockaways. There's nobody in Elmhurst or Jackson Heights who has not seen Miss Colombia across the neighborhood when she was alive. I'd like to welcome all who have come to participate in this hearing, and I urge all of my colleagues to vote in favor of the legislation before us. And we've been joined today by Council Members Holden, Lee, Menon, Narcisse, and Palladino. And I'd now call on the clerk to take the roll call vote.
Good morning. This is a roll call vote of the Committee on Parks and Recreation on a preconsidered intro, the naming of 128 thoroughfares in public places. We'll start with you, Chair Krishnan.
Aye on all.
Now, Council Members Holden.
Aye.
Lee. Menon.
Aye.
Narcisse.
Aye.
Ung. Carr. Palladino. Chair Krishnan, by a vote of 6 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, the intro has been adopted.
Thank you all. We're going to hold the vote open for a minute just in case Councilmember Carr is able to make it as well. Okay, so you know what? Let me.
Cancel.
It should be. Say a few words. Give me Chris. We'll keep the vote open, and then Councilmember Palladino will say a few words on two of her co-namings that are part of today's legislation. And I'm going to call on Councilmember Palladino to say a few words about two of her co-namings today.
These co-namings are extremely personal to me. Being born and raised in my district, I know these families personally. I want to start first with, it's going to be Section 95. It's Chief Eugene T. Kelty Jr. Way. And I'm introducing this today, and I'm proud to introduce this legislation that speaks to the honor of a true hero of our city, a lifelong public servant. Chief Eugene, known as Gene Kelty Jr., through the ceremonial co-naming of a street in his memory. This legislation is more than a symbolic gesture. It is a public and permanent tribute to a man who dedicated his life, both professionally and personally, to the people of New York City. Gene was born in 1965 in Elmhurst, raised in Whitestone, attended St. Luke's and Flushing High Schools, and graduated with honors from CUNY York College. He then embarked on an extraordinary 39-year career with the New York City Fire Department. He was promoted to battalion chief in 2003 and was exemplified what it means to lead with courage and compassion. On September the 11th, 2001, Chief Kelty was among the brave who answered the call. He helped to evacuate New Yorkers from the World Trade Center and remained on site at Ground Zero for weeks and weeks at a time in its aftermath. His actions were heroic, selfless, ultimately life-threatening, because this year, Gene passed away as a result of his 9/11 illness. Gene's service did not stop at the firehouse. Since 1984, he was an active and vital member of Community Board 7, eventually becoming its chairman. He played a key role in shaping and advocating for the development of Willets Point and served as a dedicated member of the Whitestone Boosters Civic Association. Whether it was city planning, community events, or simply helping a neighbor, Gene was always there. Gene became a very close friend. We kind of grew up together. A go-to person for me in my office throughout my first few years. His knowledge of his community he served was unmatched, and men like him are simply irreplaceable. With this legislation, we propose to co-name a street in the neighborhood he loved, a place he helped shape and protect, as Chief Eugene T. Kelty Jr. Way. Thank you. I have one more, if I may. I'll skip through it. Is that okay, Shaker? The next one I have is for Henry Socorus Drive, and I'll be introducing this. I'm proud to introduce this legislation to co-name a street in honor of a man whose life was defined by service, generosity, and an unwavering love for his community. Henry Socorus, fondly known as the mayor of College Point. For over 15 years, Henry served as a dedicated Little League coach, shaping the lives of countless young athletes. Even after stepping off the field, he continued to support the College Point Little League by sponsoring a team for yet another 10 years. These were not just games, they were opportunities, mentorships, growth, and community. Henry's spirit of service extended far behind the ball field. He supported College Point Volunteer Ambulance Corps and was a faithful usher at St. Luke's Church. As a founding member of the College Point Board of Trade, Henry worked to strengthen local businesses and create opportunity. His dedication to the community was recognized formally in 1992 and again in 2000. But anyone who lived in College Point didn't need a plaque to know the value of his contributions. Every holiday season, Henry helped bring joy and light to the neighborhood by sponsoring the Christmas lights displayed along the College Point Boulevard. He was also a key supporter of the Memorial Day Parade in College Point and the College Point Street Festival. So many of these events that brought neighbors together year after year after year. When a woman was struck in a hit and run, Henry didn't hesitate. He stepped up to help her, staying by her side until the emergency services arrived. Because of that is because of who he was, a man who always put others first. Through this street co-naming, we ensure that the name of Henry Socorus remains forever woven into the fabric of College Point. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Palladino. And with that, we will now close today's Parks Committee vote. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Shaker. I appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry.